I told my husband I was going to book club while I was sleeping with my trainer. Now he's happily remarried, my son calls his new wife mommy, and I live 40 minutes away in a one-bedroom apartment wondering how I became the ghost of my own life. I was straddling my personal trainer in the back seat of his Range Rover when my husband called for the third time, probably wondering why I wasn't at book club like I'd said I'd be. I let it go to voicemail while Marcus kissed my neck, telling me my husband was an idiot for not appreciating what he had. The parking garage under Marcus's apartment building was dark enough that I could pretend this wasn't really happening, that I wasn't really the kind of woman who did this. But I was. I had been for 3 months. My husband David wasn't a bad man. That's what makes this worse. He wasn't abusive or neglectful or cruel. He was just there. 6 years of marriage had turned us into roommates who shared a mortgage and occasionally shared a bed. He worked 60-hour weeks at his firm, came home exhausted, played with our son for 20 minutes, then fell asleep watching Netflix. Weekends were errands and youth soccer and family obligations. We hadn't had a real conversation in months. Hadn't had sex in longer. I started going to the gym after seeing photos from my sister's wedding. I looked tired. Frumpy. Like I'd given up. Like every other suburban mom who'd traded her identity for a minivan and a Costco membership. The gym was supposed to fix my body, but what it really did was remind me that men could still want me. Marcus started with professional interest, then friendly conversation, then texts about form and nutrition that slowly became texts about how my husband didn't deserve me, how I was wasting my best years, how he couldn't stop thinking about me. The validation was intoxicating. Here was this 28-year-old fitness model with a six-pack and 250,000 Instagram followers telling me I was gorgeous. Sending me songs. Calling me late at night just to hear my voice. When he kissed me that first time in the supply closet after closing, I felt 16 again. Desired. Dangerous. Like I was more than just someone's mother, someone's wife, someone's disappointment. I told myself it was just physical. Just something to make me feel alive again. Just a few months of remembering who I used to be. I became an expert at deception. Book club was my cover story twice a week. Work emergencies on weekends. My phone was suddenly password protected, always face down, always on silent. I bought new lingerie and hid it in my gym bag. I started shaving everything again, wearing perfume, doing my makeup even for grocery runs just in case I might see him. The line became so natural I almost forgot I was doing it. Almost convinced myself David wouldn't care even if he knew. He barely looked at me anyway. But David was paying attention. I know that now. He'd installed tracking software on my phone after I'd accidentally left my location on one night and he'd seen me at Marcus's apartment complex instead of Sarah's house for book club. For 2 weeks, he collected evidence. Screenshots of credit card charges. Location history. The second phone bill showing hundreds of texts to a number that wasn't in our shared contacts. He even hired a private investigator. Got photos of me leaving Marcus's apartment at 2 a.m., hair messy, makeup smeared, looking exactly like what I was. The confrontation came on a Tuesday morning after I'd dropped our son at preschool. I walked into the kitchen to find David sitting with his laptop open, surrounded by printed emails, photos, phone records. Everything laid out like a prosecutor's case. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus about meeting that afternoon. David saw it. Read it. Then looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Not anger. Just emptiness. Like I'd already ceased to exist for him. Is there anything you want to tell me? He asked, his voice steady and professional, like he was deposing a witness. I could have lied. Could have tried to explain it away. But the evidence was overwhelming and the exhaustion of maintaining the double life suddenly crashed over me. So I just said, yes. He nodded, closed his laptop, and stood up. I'm keeping the house in primary custody. You can fight it, but I have enough evidence to bury you in court. My lawyer will send the papers. Pack what you need for a few weeks. Be gone by the time I pick up our son. I tried to speak, to explain, to apologize, to something. But he held up his hand. Please don't. Whatever you're about to say, just don't. You've humiliated me enough. He walked out. Went to work like it was any other day. Left me standing in the kitchen we'd renovated together, in the house we'd bought thinking we'd raise our kids here, surrounded by proof of my betrayal. I called Marcus, panicking. He didn't answer. I texted him that David knew everything. He texted back, that's rough. But we should probably cool things off for a while. That was the last time I heard from him. The divorce was surgical in its efficiency. David had done his homework. In our state, adultery affects everything when there's a child involved. The judge reviewed the evidence for less than 10 minutes before awarding David the house, primary custody, and child support from me. Yes, I had to pay him, since I'd been the higher earner? The irony wasn't lost on anyone. I got every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. From full-time mother to part-time visitor in one court order. Marcus vanished like he'd never existed. Blocked me on everything before I even moved out. I found out later he'd been sleeping with at least 3 other clients. I wasn't special. I was just the only one stupid enough to blow up my life for him. His Instagram kept growing. His business kept thriving. He probably doesn't even remember my name. Just another married woman looking for attention, willing to risk everything for absolutely nothing. The social fallout was swift and merciless. David didn't badmouth me, which somehow made it worse. He simply told the truth when asked. Our friends divided like we were splitting assets. Most went with him. The reliable one. The victim. The good father who'd been betrayed. I got the 2 friends who'd been through divorces themselves, but even they kept their distance, like my poor judgment might be contagious. My son started calling me Mommy Claire to distinguish me from David's new girlfriend, just Mommy apparently. She moved in 8 months after I moved out. A pediatric nurse. Never married. No kids of her own. Perfect stepmother material. She does the school pickups I used to do. Packs the lunches I used to pack. Reads the bedtime stories I used to read. My son loves her. Talks about her constantly during my weekends. Shows me pictures she helped him draw. Tells me about the cookies she bakes, the games she plays, the way she doesn't yell when he spills things. I ran into them at Target once. David, our son, and her. They looked like a catalog family. She was wearing the kind of casual, put-together outfit I used to wear when I cared. My son was holding her hand, chattering about some cartoon. David was pushing the cart, laughing at something she said. They didn't see me. I stood in the shampoo aisle watching my replacement live my life, and I understood that this wasn't a temporary situation. This was their family now. I was just the complication they had to manage every other weekend. My career survived, barely. I'd been smart enough not to tell anyone at work about the affair. But going from stable married mother to divorced weekend parent affected everything. The reliable schedule I'd built around school pickup became impossible. The networking events I could attend dropped to nothing. I became the cautionary tale whispered about at office parties. The one who threw away her picture-perfect life for a fling with a gym rat half her age. Dating is a joke. My profiles get flagged and shared in local mom groups. Home wrecker alert, they post, even though the only home I wrecked was my own. The men who do match just want easy sex, figuring a woman who cheated once will cheat again, that undamaged goods up for anything. The decent ones Google me and find the public divorce records. The court documents are thorough. Detailed. Humiliating. One guy actually told me I deserved everything I got before unmatching mid-conversation. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment 40 minutes from what used to be my neighborhood. The commute for my weekend visits is brutal, but it's all I could afford after the settlement. I sleep on the couch when my son stays over so he can have the bedroom. He asks why I don't have a bigger house like Daddy. Why I don't have a yard. Why his toys here are different from his toys there. I tell him it's temporary, but we both know I'm lying. The hardest part is seeing who David became without me. He lost 30 pounds. Started dressing better. Took up hobbies he'd abandoned years ago. He coaches our son's soccer team now, something he'd always said he was too busy for when we were married. He smiles in photos again. Real smiles, not the forced ones from our last few years. He's become the man I'd always wanted him to be, just not for me. The bitter truth is that my betrayal freed him to find someone who actually appreciated him. Last month was what would have been our 7th anniversary. I spent it alone, drinking wine and looking through old photos I should have deleted. There's one from our honeymoon where he's looking at me like I hung the moon. I can't remember the last time he looked at me like that when we were married. Maybe if I'd noticed sooner. Maybe if I'd fought for us instead of running to someone else. Maybe if I'd been brave enough to fix what was broken instead of torching everything for the temporary high of new attention. My son told me David and his girlfriend are getting married next spring. Said it casually, like mentioning the weather. They're planning a Disney honeymoon. He's excited about being a ring bearer. About having a real family, he said, before catching himself. I mean, you're real too, Mommy Claire. Just different. Even at 5, he knows I'm on the outside now. The extra piece that doesn't quite fit the picture. I want to hate David. Want to hate her. Want to hate everyone who's moved on while I'm stuck in this purgatory I created. But I can't. Because every consequence I'm living through is one I earned. Every lonely Friday night, every awkward drop-off where David won't make eye contact, every time my son slips and calls another woman mommy, it's all exactly what I deserve. I traded a flawed but real marriage for a fantasy that existed only in my head. Destroyed a good man's trust for the attention of someone who forgot me the second I became inconvenient. There's no redemption arc here. No lesson that made me stronger. No silver lining about finding myself. Just the echo of my son's laughter from a house I can't enter, from a life I can't reclaim, from a family that learned to be complete without me. I wasn't the main character in some story of self-discovery. I was just another selfish person who learned too late that some doors, once closed, stay closed forever. The last time I saw Marcus's Instagram before deleting the app entirely, he was promoting a couple's fitness challenge with his new girlfriend. The caption read, "Find someone who matches your energy and never settles for less." The comments were full of heart emojis and relationship goals hashtags. 3 months of destroying my life, and I'd just been practice for his actual relationship. Sometimes, late at night in my empty apartment, I think about the alternate timeline where I'd turned down that first training session. Where I'd gone to actual book club. Where I'd fought for my marriage instead of against it. In that timeline, maybe David and I figured it out. Maybe we remembered why we fell in love. Maybe I'm tucking our son into bed right now instead of wondering what bedtime story his new mother is reading him. But that timeline doesn't exist. Only this one does. The one where I'm the cautionary tale. The reminder that some choices echo forever. The proof that you can lose everything that matters and the time it takes to say yes to the wrong person. My son asked me last week why I don't live with them anymore. I told him sometimes adults make mistakes. He thought about it, then said, "Did you say sorry?" I told him yes. "Did Daddy forgive you?" I told him forgiveness is complicated. He shrugged and went back to his game, already losing interest in my absence. That's what I've become. A question with an unsatisfying answer. A mistake that everyone else has learned to live around. The truth nobody tells you about destroying your family is that life goes on. Just not yours. Everyone else moves forward, builds new happiness, finds better love. But you're frozen in the moment you detonated everything, watching through windows you can no longer open, at warmth you can no longer feel. You become the ghost haunting your own former life, except nobody's trying to help you move on. They just wish you would disappear completely.